recording on. So, Bill, Matt, I just want to say thank you for jumping on the call today. Obviously, we've been through our coaching experience together. You know, you've had a great great transformation and journey. And although you've written me a testimony, we've done a podcast together. I thought it'd be great to jump on a call today just to dive into your experience and your journey. So anyone else that is on the fence or on the edge about, diving into coaching or even contemplating what is coaching, this might give them the answers. They might see something or hear something in here today that relates to them, that could help them take that next step. So, mate, I'd like to just start off, like, before we started coaching together, like, what was your life like before coaching? In terms of, like, before we started working together, where was your life at, and what made you think about, what, I need to do something different, or I need to get some help?
Yeah, so interesting point. So I've always been on the personal development journey anyway, but not as much as I would always want to be. So I personally was on that journey to make myself just feel like I was doing something good. And I knew I had a lot of work to do anyway to get where I wanted to be because I wasn't from the background of handouts. And I knew if I was going to get to where I wanted to be, I had to work harder than most. But on that journey comes a lot of ups and downs because realistically, unless you've got the guidance from maybe, I don't know, like a parent or a good friend or maybe like even an uncle or aunt who's been on that journey as well. I didn't have anyone in my immediate network that had been on that personal development journey. So unfortunately, what that comes with is a lot of ups and downs. And once you do get taken astray, all of a sudden it's quite hard to come back from. So I felt myself going far too astray. And then before I knew it, looked back a couple of years and was like, shit, I've probably wasted a few years here because I did hit success quite quickly because of the hard work I put in the early days. And then all of a sudden I got a bit complacent. I'll be honest, the ego got the better of me. And then look back and then was a couple of years down the line and was like, shit, I've probably wasted a few years. So, yeah, it was hard to reach out. Being a man, obviously, you just think, well, let's not speak up. Let's just try and figure it out on my own. Before you know it, you're in a vicious circle, self sabotaging probably 3, 4 times a week. And when you're on that self awareness journey, you know it's no good for you. And then it battered my confidence completely. So I did dabble with another life coach, which I mentioned to you before. Didn't really, it did help. I'm not going to say it didn't, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. And then obviously come across your journey and seeing what you'd been through really related to me and where I was at. And then I thought, well, you're doing all the things that I want to do in terms of the running. Like, you just seem like a super confident person, well relatable, similar type of characters. You had similar type of friends. You built that community, which, to be honest, I was after. And that community for me was what I was itching for, was not to
Mm,
feel alone in the journey and
mm,
not to feel like the oddball. Because when you're on that personal development journey, trying to be a success quite young, it can get very lonely very quickly. And like I say, you can just go down the wrong path and end up chilling with the wrong people, impressing people that don't really care, and then looking for external validation all the time. When
mm.
actually, for example, yourself being a relatable coach and doing the things that I've always dreamt of doing, roll the tape a year forward now, I've done the things you've been doing.
Mm.
Um, Obviously, fair play to you. You're always doing one more, but that
Appreciate
makes me
it.
that makes me want to do one more as well.
It
So
makes it even more relatable because it shows that it's possible for anything that I've done. It's possible for you too. In terms of taking it back there, when you was, you had all the what would seem like outward success, right? When is it you felt like, what, I need to reach out, I need to, what was the kind of like straw that broke the camel's back? Because you wasn't in a terrible position, business was going well, you was doing extremely well for yourself, but what was like, no, I need to change, I can't sit in this cycle no more, I need to take my life to that next level.
that's the thing. I never, even though it's so weird because when I spoke about this after my 3 months of the program,
Mm,
my mindset then about, well, my testimonial then was like, wow, I've smashed it. And I actually forget what my identity was now because I've moved on so much.
yeah.
So it's hard to look back that far now, even though I do. So realistically, the reason I wanted to break the cycle was because I was becoming known as the party boy, not the business owner, not the personal development guy. I'm not the guy that have really grafted and done really well so young. It was like, well, that's expected of you now. Now you're just fucking yourself every weekend, just going out, showing off, being a dick, and just basically just using what you've built and what you've done to just show off a little bit, really, and just become a bit of an arsehole with it. Whereas my identity, for me personally, I always used to say to my friends was like, well, the close friends that knew me was like, no, but that's not you though, Bill. You are what you are. You are the grafter. You are the business owner. You are the successful person that you know you are. But most people that I knew only see me on the weekends. So I was creating an identity that I wasn't proud of. And then I got to a point where I was like, well, no, I want to become me 5 days a week, 365 days a year. And that's when I thought, right, well, I'm struggling to get through these weekends alone. And if I can surround myself around the right people and have the right guidance, and what I found with you was you helped me break negative cycles and actually rebuild that confidence and be proud of myself, which you can go to your parents for that, but they don't always understand what you're going through day to day. So it's hard. It's easy for them to go, I'm proud of you and all that. But you really did inject that confidence back into me, which I'll be honest, like
When did you, gone, sorry to interrupt you. When did you feel like things started to change for you? Like you changed that identity, but when do you feel like, how long into the coaching did you feel like things started to really shift? That shift for you, you know, we know it's not a quick transformation. We know it's not overnight, but when do you feel like you started to gather that momentum and things started to click and say, oh shit, this is actually really working for me now?
Well, it was the first 4 weeks of the program I completely wasted. I'll be honest. I
Yeah.
was still stuck in the negative cycle. I would show up on calls with you. I'd half pretend that I was doing things that I weren't doing because I'm just the type of person that don't want to be made to look like an idiot. But at the same time, that was that was hurting me more and more week on week. So each week would go by, I'd say to you, I've done things, even I'd done them, but not as hard as I knew I could have done them. And then I was half-assing it, I'll be brutally honest. And then it got to the fourth week, and I was like, I can't lie. I'm not lying no more because I was still doing them, but I can't show up on the next call and pretend. I need to go into that next call. So I said, right, over the next week, I'm going all in, sticking to my word, not making any mistakes, and cutting down, for example, drink and all the other shit, even processed foods, even the running, which I was already doing, but I was doing half hour, 45 minutes. You kept challenging me every week and saying, up it to 60 minutes. Meditation, I would do 2-3 minutes. She was like, now do 10 minutes, now do 20 minutes. And I would make sure the following week I'm getting it done now. Not, oh yeah, I did that. Oh, yeah, I did that. When really deep down I was thinking, oh, I've done probably about half of what I was saying. But because I was ticking the boxes, I was like, yeah, I'm still doing the exercise, I'm still doing it. But in the end, I was like, nah, I'm gonna prove this fucker wrong now.
I was
And
going to say,
then
what do you feel like the shift was? Because the good thing is that it was like you wasn't being perfect, but you was making progression, right? And you knew that you was basically half-hearting it yourself. And if it was you outside of the coaching, you probably would have kept lying to yourself, saying, I'm doing okay. That's what we do, right? We make excuses, we get complacent. We're like, yeah, things are going well. What do you feel like changed that for you? Was it because it invested in yourself? Because I was there? Because you knew you was lying to yourself? What do you feel like it was like, no, fuck, I need to get committed here?
no, it was you. It's the accountability piece. It's like, and obviously, I'll be honest, the community massively helped. So the accountability from you was just challenging me week on week. And because you was upping it week on week, I had to really dig in. And then being in the community, you said to me, start posting the wins and really get involved, because a part of my journey was about the personal brand, and the personal brand piece, I'll be honest, deep down has always been an accountability piece as well. And then I started the personal branding exercise in that chat, because I wasn't live on LinkedIn. I wasn't live on anything like social media just yet, but I was using that as like a little platform to get going and get little recognition points. And then once you start being recognized by others in the chat for doing the things you're saying you're doing, started tracking and reviewing. So I was taking down all the data. So I didn't even have an Apple Watch before then. So I bought like a Chorus. I started going on Strava, and all of a sudden I was tracking all the details at work, all the outreach I was doing. And I started seeing it come to life week on week. And then 4 weeks later, I was like, fucking hell, within 4 weeks. So the first 4 weeks were a waste of time. Then the 4 weeks after that was like, let's up it. And then you went to me, book an ultra. And then before you know it, I run that night, the day you said book an ultra, I went and run that random marathon on a Tuesday. And then Then I booked the ultra that day, and then 4 weeks later, I've done even more, doubled that, and I've done like 350 kilometers in a month. Had a record month at work, and it was like first 4 weeks waste of time. The next 4 weeks, let's take it serious. And the 4 weeks after that, I was like, shit, I can actually
Come
get shit
together.
done here.
Love that. Talk about some of the external things that you achieved, and then I want to talk about some internal shifts that you feel like you gained. Right? What are some external things like business, like personal, that you feel like you built or achieved throughout the coaching?
So it was the personal stuff was really up in the exercise. So I went from three days a week to 7 days a week throughout the coaching in the end. I was doing, like I say, 350 kilometers a month. I was doing more hours than days. So I was probably doing about 40 hours a month or maybe 50 hours a month exercise, which was a huge shift. We had a record month at work, like revenue wise, which was great. But even that one didn't really bother me too much. It was more the personal things.
Mm.
And then I grew my Instagram and my LinkedIn by like 400% in a short space of time. I was knocking out personal branding videos, which I'd never dreamt of doing. I was far not too shy, but I was not confident being in front of camera. And in the space of again the 3 months, I was posting maybe once, twice a day in the end, which was great. And then what else was I doing? There was loads of things. I've done a sub 20-minute 5K. I like I said, I run another marathon before the end of the year, which wasn't in the plan. I brought on a running coach, which is another type of coach that I didn't even think existed before we started.
Yeah. So what happens when you start investing in coaches, right? You want a bit of all of it. Public speaking that you done, which I knew
Oh
was a
yeah, of
massive thing,
course.
which was
Yeah,
a
so
massive
public
thing.
speaking. So that was a part of the plan originally for like a 3-4 year down the line plan to be like a public speaker. So I managed to host an event with my friend. Obviously, it was only a pub, but there was still a good, 15, 20 people there. And that gave me some real confidence.
And I think it's so amazing the fact that you, as you said, the first 4 weeks didn't go to plan, but you also set 3 year goals. But then 3 year goals we end up accomplishing in 12 weeks, well, 8 weeks, because
Mm.
the first 4 weeks was just a little tester to get into it. What do you feel like are some internal changes that you've developed, or mindset shifts, or things that have stayed with you since stopping the coaching? Because all the external stuff's great, right? But one of the things that I love to do is help people internally change. Because I also like to talk to you about how has everything been since we stopped coaching. Because some people, when I get people, Jack, if I stop though after 12 weeks, have I stopped? Am I going to go back? That's what I'm afraid of. What are some internal changes you make, and how have you been getting on since we stopped coaching?
So I remember the first session we did was, what are the three like characteristics or traits you'd love to become? What are those three like buzzwords? And mine was like bold, courageous, and like risk taker. I think I'm a risk taker,
Yep.
and I feel like I carry those traits every single day now. For example, like I said earlier before we jumped on the call, I had the flu last week, and because it ripped me off for a couple of days, rather than sitting around moping about, I went for a 5K in the morning, done a sub 20-minute 5K, and then it wasn't enough to shake it off. So after work, I went, fuck this, I'm going to do a marathon. And then just run a marathon with the flu. And then it did clear it up, to be fair, but it was probably a bit silly. But no one in their right mind would do that unless you had courage, or unless you was bold, or unless you took a
Mm,
risk. Because most people would be like, oh, what if I collapse? Or what if I do this? But I
mm,
thought, no, that's not happening. I've got 206 kilometers to run next month. So I need to put myself under pressure now, because when I
mm.
do 120K on the first day, I've got to do another 86 the next.
Yeah,
And if I've got the flu or not, it's getting done. So I thought that's a really good time to test myself whilst I'm under pressure already. And
love
I
that.
feel like that was exactly 1 year later that I took. That's why I did it, to be fair, because it was on, I put it in the group chat that morning. It was exactly 1 year that day where I started taking the coaching serious.
Mm,
And I thought, let's see where I'm at a year later. And I was like, fair play. Like my mindset was so strong throughout that run. I was actually considering doing longer, doing like 50 or 60K, but I thought it was 9:30 at night, and I do like to get a bed at 10. So I did cap myself at 10 o'clock when I got a curfew of 10. So I thought realistically, you do need to get your sleep in still. So, and who am I trying to impress? And that's when I realized actually I'm not looking for external validation. I'm actually looking for the internal validation of making
love that.
myself proud, just saying I've got the marathon done.
Mm,
And before it was all about posting it on Instagram or put it in the group chat. Even I'll put it in there because it is good for the other guys who are new to the group and who are going through it at the moment. But I feel like I'm not doing it now to get a well done or to get a like on Instagram. I'm doing it because when I'm having those conversations in my head, it's about being kind to yourself and actually saying, I'm proud of you, mate. You look how far you've come and look at the things you're doing now. You wouldn't have dreamt of doing that.
Love
And
that.
like to have the bottle to do it, it's just I feel like it's really impressive. I feel like I
Powerful.
give myself a pat on the back.
Love that. I was going to say, what is a couple of things that you're most proud of that you achieved or that you've developed or that you got from the coaching?
It's having a spring in my step every day. It's going to bed and waking up like cannot wait for the next day. Whereas I used to go to bed, didn't really know what I was going to go in for the next day. Didn't really know. I knew what I was getting up. I was getting up just to go to work and just try and smash out work. Whereas now, I've said it on our previous podcast. The 5 till 7 slot, I preach it to everyone. That is for me, and that's the best part of my day is 5 till 7 or 5 till 8 to really, really show up for myself and really start the day off well. And if you don't get that right, then I'm not really interested in that whole day. That's
Mm,
my time to serve me. And then for the rest of the day, I can be a servant to everyone else. And I feel like waking up with a spring in your step rather than just going through the motions. That's the key part. And I'm so consistent with that now, whether it's the weekend or if it's the midweek. And yeah, it's just that internal dialogue is so much more positive than it ever has been. And even if I have still had too much to drink, which I do, I'm prone to from time to time, nowhere near as much as I used to. But if ever I do it, I'm not beating myself up and battering myself down. It's like I
mm.
choose to do these things, and my internal dialogue now is just so much better. And that comes from all the small wins and the habits that I'm building over the past year, really.
Love that. I'd love you to address that quickly because what are some of the objections that you thought about coming into the coaching which didn't happen around that? Because a lot of people might hold themselves back from coaching because they think I've got to give up this, I've got to stop this, everything's going to change. What is that? What is them that fear that you that mentioned me to me that held you back, and how did that fear go away through the
Yeah,
coaching?
well, like I say, the drinking thing, obviously, when you see your posts, obviously your journey was strong in terms of you physically couldn't drink or do drugs or whatever it was that because you would go far too bananas. And to be honest, I'm the same. I'm all or nothing. But what I've learned through the coaching is I can actually do it in moderation now. I try not to because I've got the tendency to go too
Yeah,
far. So rather than doing it every week now, I'll probably have a go once a month. Don't
yeah.
get me wrong, I've had patches throughout the summer. It's been a bit worse than others, but that's just due to holidays. But as a whole, when I first joined, I thought, oh, I've got to give up partying or I've got to give up socializing or I've got to give up going down the pub and watching football. And these are things that are a big part of my life. Socializing was number one when we first started, but socializing is now number 5 on my value list. Doesn't mean I don't like socializing no more, but all the other bits are naturally coming first because without the other bits, I don't feel like I deserve to socialize.
Mm,
And it doesn't mean you've got to sacrifice these things completely. It just means get your priorities right and grow up, mate. Do you know what I mean? And
love that.
actually,
Love
you
that.
can still socialize and have a beer, but just don't go mental. But I can't go mental because my lifestyle doesn't support that. So
Love that.
that's
Love
what
that.
I feel like you, the group, and you have taught me more than anything. You don't have to, you never said you've got to sacrifice these things. You've just said what's important to you, know why they're important to you, and maybe act on those a bit more. And you just live a better life and you feel more proud.
Well, that's it. It's just more getting focused on the things that you want to achieve and improve. And you end up doing that so much, you're like, I don't really want to keep doing these things because it's taking me off this. It's taking me off this life that I love to live. Whether it's working on your personal goals, your professional goals, whatever it may be, spending time with your values, that seems more important to you than a lot of the other stuff.
Well, you said to me on our last ever call, it sticks to me forever. You went, so before we finish this up, when are you most on purpose? And I told you, I listed all the things that I do to make me feel on purpose. And you went, when do you feel like you're off purpose? And obviously, when you're having a booze and you're doing stupid shit, or even if you're eating shit, I'm off purpose because it just means tomorrow I'm not going to be my best self, which means I'm not going to be doing my best run or just being my best self around all my people and just feeling proud of myself. So even little things like if I eat shit, realistically, I'm going to have a shit run tomorrow because my stomach's going to feel it. Like
Mm.
these little things are the same as having a booze, and it's just
It's just
again
it's
getting the
the
priorities right.
self-awareness of knowing yourself inside out and just aligning
Mm.
everything that makes you feel good, which we all want, right? Is there anything else that you'd love to share about your journey as a whole? Or if someone is watching this now and they're like, they're sitting on the fence, they don't know what coaching is, or they've had all these objections in their mind, anything you'd love to share about your own journey, and then any advice for anyone else thinking about, signing up to this coaching program or being a part of this community?
I would say everyone's got more to give. This is for everyone. Not don't ever feel like it's not for you just because I don't know. It looks a bit intense. It should be intense. It should be intentional. I feel like if you are going to do it and you're thinking about it, it's definitely the right time to do it. If you're
Mm,
not thinking about it, whatever. But if you've got one little inkling of getting it done and jumping in, I think go all in, but don't fuck about with it. Don't
yeah.
waste 4 weeks like I did because you could be so much more further on. And I just feel like with the community, the people you'll meet, the like-minded people in there that make you feel, like I say, not alone. There is more madder people than I thought I was. At the same time, I have moments where I feel like fucking hell, I am more mad than most, which makes you feel good about yourself though.
Yes, for
And the
sure.
amount of conversations I have off the chat, so you only see about 10-15% of it on the chat because that's what people are willing to share openly. But it's
Mm,
when people drag you off the chat and you have these private conversations, you're like, fucking hell, this is actually pretty nice. There's people out there very, very similar to me and they're doing very similar jobs to me. We're all going through the same shit. Even though on paper their life looks like it's completely patterned and looks perfect, they're all going through the same old shit as well.
yeah.
So it's quite nice just to not feel alone. And I suppose that is the whole point of a community is
Yeah,
to
well,
be
I think
around.
it's the relatability of it. Everyone in the community is people that I've worked with, but also they've all got their own journey, they got their own story, but I relate to them. So it's like when you're in this immersive experience, everyone relates to each other because everyone's going through the same shit or has gone through the same shit, which makes it relatable, which it makes it accountable, which makes it feel good to be a part of. Bro, listen, thank you very much. I want to say, thank you for everything that you've said today, but was well done for your own journey, not just through the coaching itself. Even though you said that the first 4 weeks didn't go your way, I know the 8 weeks off the back of that, you did not skip a beat. So if anything, the 4 weeks done you a favor because I remember everything that we spoke about. You didn't wait a week to implement. It was like you was trying to catch up for lost time, and you just executed. And we managed to achieve your 3 year goals in fucking 8 weeks. But most importantly, off the back of the coaching, you've continuously showed up. You've been supportive in the community. You've keep pushing and progressing at work, your personal brand, your running, and everything else. And I know that big things are going to happen for you over the
Let me just
coming
one
years.
last thing
No doubt
before we
about
wrap
it.
it up.
Of
So
course.
one last thing. So just to touch on your point about when it comes to an end, what happens then? That's where I feel like I've benefited the most. So the 12 weeks is more like it is a training program. It's actually understanding and educating yourself on the basics and the framework. But once I come out of it, the how much I felt empowered to go on my own and prove to myself that I don't need to have my hand held anymore. And the
Mm,
framework, I still pull out the sheets, the exercise sheets that we went through and
love
have a
that.
flip. So if I ever have a moment where I feel like fucking hell, I'm going off the boil here, go back to it, all of a sudden quickly recheck all the things you were doing before. The frame that's why it is a framework because you can actually live by that forever. So
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
Love that. Well done, brother. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today.
Last one, Jack.
Cheers.